When it comes to cricket, there's only one spirit of the game. A spirit so refined that it makes you more correct than the umpire. A spirit so crisp that it makes racism look like light banter. A spirit so buoyant you could forget that England is losing the Ashes to Australia on home soil. Oh yes, no, top me up, thank you. That's lovely. Presenting the only spirit of the game that counts, MCC Gin. Cheers! Fueling the entitlement of the Marylebone Cricket Club members since some... I forget. When was it? MCC Gin, yes, as appointed to the Queen, Her Majesty, when she was the first woman to set foot in the Holy Long Room. Ever. Oh, hear that? Is that a woman in the long room? MCC Gin, the spirit of the game. For sore losers, it's the perfect tonic. Make mine a hat-trick.
Tonight, Instagram launches a Twitter rival called Threads, answering the question everyone's been asking, can you have cum gutters and still be interesting with 500 characters and less? And PwC tipped off Google about the government tax plans. Google said they already knew, but thanks very much anyway. And Donald Trump Jr. has cancelled his tour, saying that if he wanted to perform to nobody in Australia and lose tons of money, he'd register for the Melbourne International Comedy Festival. It's the 7th of July, and I'm a big baby. This is a Rational Fear. Yes, welcome to Rational Fear. I'm your host, Instagram Threads account holder, Dan Illich, and this is the podcast that laughs at the week's most pressing news. Let's meet our fearmongers for tonight. They're a cabaret, capitalist, and TV producerist. It is Alice Tovey. Welcome to Rational Fear, Alice.
Capitalist? How dare you? I'm all about seizing those memes.
You got to break even on your shows. Come on.
That's true. I do have to. I don't always. But yes,
And
Merry Financial New Year.
Yes. This is the Financial New Fear, this episode of the show. Alice, you're a new resident to Sydney. Welcome. What's your first impression of the place?
Thank you so much. First impression: crowded, loud, love it. I'm in the big city, baby. I've made the big times.
Did you move here from Antarctica? What kind of talk is that? Crowded?
I got off a Greyhound bus, Lewis. I was wide-eyed from a small town called
in
Melbourne.
Nebraska.
Yeah. And he's the finance podcast of the Povo generation. It's the host of My Millennial Money, Glen James. Glen, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks so much for having me. It's going to be a wild time discussing all this important news.
Glen, how's the avocado metric holding up in these tricky times? Millennials are still not allowed to eat avocado?
I think so. I mean, I don't know. I just got back from Bali and I ordered breakfast and it cost me $9 and I'm pretty sure I still ripped off. But
and you haven't even got Bali belly yet.
No, not yet.
And our final guest has got a big announcement, but will he say it here first? It's Lewis Hobber. Lewis.
Hello.
Can you announce your announcement yet?
I can. Do you want me to wait till the end of the plugs, though, or do you want me to do it now?
Yes, let's wait till the end of the plugs. Oh,
oh my God, that's so much sizzle. I'm so excited.
Dan, I've got to tell you how to make money. You've got to do the announcement after you do the ad break.
Oh, right. This is why we have the only person who makes money on the podcast here today. James, host of the My Millennial Money podcast, probably the most successful money-making podcast in Australia, would you say, Glen?
No, I wouldn't say that at all.
I've got a big announcement. We've got a new Patreon supporter, Lauren. Lauren paid up for the whole year, straight up. She put down all of the month's money that she was going to dedicate to the show, all on this month. So thank you, Lauren. If you do sign up to the Patreon, you get an ad-free, sponsor-free version of the show, as well as access to the Discord with a bunch of other 100 or so Rational Fear superfans to discuss what's what. All right, let's get into the fears. This week's first fear: cocaine was found at the White House. Officials are investigating how a small bag of cocaine ended up in the White House on Sunday when it was found on the ground floor of the West Wing near the visitors tour section there, where people are instructed to leave their mobile phones. The White House was evacuated initially until testing was confirmed that it actually was cocaine. But there is absolutely no indication that the cocaine's discovery disrupted White House operations. Fearmongers, who brings cocaine on the White House tour? Did somebody just think, well, it is the White House, I should bring my white cocaine with me?
Oh, who brings cocaine, Dan? An absolute legend is who brings cocaine to the White House. It's the first time cocaine's been found in the White House, actually, since Donald Trump Jr. single-handedly reopened the Suez Canal, which is what he calls his nasal cavity.
I think it's great. I think they should give it to Biden before the next State of the Union. See if he can cut that thing down from like an hour to 15 minutes.
Oh,
Guys, I got some really cool ideas. Listen up. At the end, he's
they
just
must
given
prop
like
that guy up like all day long, and he's probably like walking around the White House going, "Oh yeah, it's definitely not anthrax." Like, yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
I'd love to know which member of the Secret Service it was that was just like, "Hey, guys, look,
I got this.
I don't want you to tell you. I don't want you to know how I know this, but that's cocaine."
But if you read between the lines, you can see that they allow staff members to take friends on a private tour in the White House, usually on Saturdays and Sundays. It's like, hey guys, snow party, Oval Office, Saturday Arvo, you keen?
I did. Joe Biden made a big point saying, "Oh no, we were all at Camp David," which is such like a year 11 excuse. Like, nah, mum, it can't be mine. I was on school camp.
I really enjoyed that the tourists, that the bag was found where the tourists were told just to leave their bags at the door. Someone's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'll leave my baggies too." Yeah.
Yeah, you'd never get that in Sydney. They're like, this bag is worth more than a Chanel.
Yeah. Do you reckon the press secretary, Karine, like, I was thinking about it the other day, like, she is probably the biggest gaslighter in the world, and she gets paid to do it because every time Biden makes a gaffe, she's like, "Oh no, he didn't actually say that. He didn't mean that." And I just think maybe she needed the coke to get through a day.
I mean, if
That
you
is
look
a-
at
that
like
is a-
the highest use of cocaine in Australia, it's in Canberra. Is
it?
The Washington of Australia? So it's like the idea that it's a surprise that people in power, government, any kind of elite position with money use cocaine is like the least surprising thing to anyone in the world. If anything, I'm surprised that this A hasn't happened before, or B made the news. Like any journalists, you absolute dogs. The amount of cocaine I have seen journalists personally use, every time I see a journalist write a story about cocaine, I'm like, I bet you put it up your nose. Like it is air. You absolute hypocritical coward.
See, do you know if cocaine has ever been found in Australian Parliament? That's something I'd love to see at the midwinter ball.
If you buy cocaine in Australia, you leave none behind. Like it is.
Lest we forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Lewis, what do you actually think, Lewis?
What do I really think? I think we should legalize cocaine, Glenn. I'm so glad you asked.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, look, cocaine should definitely go on the PBS. That's for sure. This week's second fear, Barbie brain has taken over the Australian media, just like the filmmakers and marketers have probably planned. There are hot takes everywhere about Barbie, including this very stupid one from the SMH style editor, whose article reads, "Living doll Margot Robbie can do better than dressing like Barbie. On the Barbie press tour, the Australian actor and producer is playing a dangerous game of dress-ups." Oh my God. Far out. Maybe Damien Woolnough is right. Margot Robbie, the actor who is playing the titular Barbie, should be dressing up like Play-Doh on the Barbie promotional tour. Dressing up is so dangerous. That's why she gets paid millions of dollars to do it as a job. Fearmongers, has Barbie brain taken over your media diets, Alice?
100%. I don't know if you know this, Dan, but I work on a little show called Gruen on the ABC. So all I do day in, day out is watch ads clang for Barbie. Come on, Barbie, let's go party.
So what have you learned? What have you learned about Barbie brain on the last few weeks of kind of being totally like immersed in Australian media?
Oh my God, it's pervasive. I feel like if you cut open my head, it'd just be pink goo spilling out everywhere, like pinker than the goo's supposed to be. I love this thing. Like, I'm not above writing an opinion piece. I've written many opinion pieces in my time for the Sydney Morning Herald, but what's the danger?
You would have rubbished the Sydney Morning Herald opinion desk. You wouldn't be in a job, Alice Tovey.
But like, what do they
okay.
expect her to dress as? Like, oh,
You're in
she
the-
should be bluey, like an Australian icon.
I saw that Will Ferrell's the CEO of Mattel in the movie, and I haven't seen it yet, guys. I'm going tomorrow night, but I want I want him to be Magatu from Zoolander in it.
It's so interesting. Mattel has 45 other IP properties in the works that are being touted as movie material. Let me read you out a few. I would love to know what the Fearmongers think. Mattel is working on an Uno heist comedy with Lil Yachty, based around the Atlanta hip hop scene.
So is Little Yachty the setting or a performer?
Little
Wait.
Yachty is a hip hop artist from Atlanta, and they're doing
Lil
an
Yachty?
Uno. And yeah,
You're telling me Lil Yachty,
yeah,
the
that's it.
rapper,
Lil
is
Yachty the
going to
rapper.
be in the Uno movie.
Draw 4, Lewis.
So
You heard it
if
first.
some quick context for Lil Yachty, if you know nothing about this is finally a story that brings together my two worlds, my irrational fear life and the 99% of my life outside of this, which is deep in Lil Yachty territory. Lil Yachty is a rapper whose like breakthrough was being a model in Kanye West's Yeezy runway shows. He then his nickname is Little Boat, and he is like, if you don't like mumble rap, if you aren't deep into that, you would listen to this and think it was a joke. Like, I personally enjoy the work of Lil Yachty, but I completely understand people are like, this man sounds like he is doing a parody of what music sounds like in 2023. And he is not an actor. And him being in the Uno, this has like broken my brain.
No. Lewis, a heist comedy based on Uno.
It's a heist
gonna do comedy.
That hasn't been done much.
That's crazy.
All right, now
These
that
people have lost their minds. There has been, I don't know if there's been any stories about cocaine use in Hollywood, Dan, but I'm suspecting there might be some around.
Daniel Kaluuya is making an A24 type film about Barney. So that's coming down the line.
Barney the dinosaur.
Barney the dinosaur, like some kind of quirky indie film about Barney. Mattel is also trying to create a Magic the 8-Ball movie, and they got the guys who made Cocaine Bear. They're turning it into a horror film.
I hope it's about finally someone cracking open a Magic 8-Ball and drinking the liquid inside. That's what I want to see.
That one feels like the most plausible so far, I think.
Okay, well, what about this? J.J. Abrams is producing a gritty movie about Hot Wheels.
That one might actually be good.
No, Glenn, don't fall for this. I've
fallen. I mean,
he's fallen.
J.J.
He's done a
Abrams.
loop de loop. He zipped out the other side.
Yeah.
Mark Foster, James Bond director, is doing a live action thriller of Thomas the Tank Engine. These are all
jokes. These are jokes. Where did you get this?
These are all things.
These are not real.
These are all things that have been reported in the.
I don't believe you. I simply don't believe. I know the world is insane, but I don't believe the world is that insane.
Would you believe that Vin Diesel is planning another franchise with Rock'em Sock'em Robots? You know those.
Actually, yes, that's the most believable.
That one.
And then. I don't know what this is going to be, but MGM and Mattel are also creating a movie about Viewmaster. You know those old 80s things you put on your eyes and you click through the pictures. Apparently,
how are they going to make that a movie? You can only fit 8 slides on one disc.
It sounds like also like what Viewmaster is a very slow movie. Like it's just pictures sliding by your eyes, which is what a film is. So maybe it's just they'll re-release all films that they've ever done, but at like 1/8 of the speed.
A really slow GIF. Folks, what would you like to see as a toy being turned into a movie? Do you have any ideas? Do you have any ideas? I mean, I'd like to see like a gritty reboot of G.I. Joe coming home from deployment, trying to deal with his PTSD. That would be.
Well, they did that. They did G.I. Jane not that long ago, if you recall.
Yeah, it's got Chris Rock punched in the face.
Yeah.
I would like to see Monopoly with you, Dan, like trying to buy a house in 2023. and Donald Trump's the actual guy in the movie.
See, I reckon we could get a fun Connect 4 movie going. If you, I don't know, get Scorsese on the blower, Al Pacino could be in it. I could just see him yelling "Connect 4" in the Al Pacino voice. There's a movie there in that
I
impression.
think you know what that's actually great. You know what I see that? I see that as like an Ocean's 11, but there's only 4 of them. So you have to at the start, instead of like assemble the team, someone, let's be honest, it's Brad Pitt, says while he's eating a burger, we need to connect 4. And then they get 4. He calls up his 4 friends. They go out. It's actually kind of a let's get Lil Yachty involved. It's a heist film. I'm loving it so far.
And the sequel can be Connect 5.
Damn, it's got Julia Roberts in it playing herself. I'm loving this.
It's just relentless. All these toys being turned into movie IP. It's like, which is doing this? Which is like the sales job here? Is the movie selling the toys, or are the toys selling the movie? It's like it kind of gets into very murky territory about how that whole industry works at that point in time.
I think it's literally just like the theory is if you have heard of something, whether you think it's a good idea or a bad idea, you're just more likely to see it. Like if you go, they're making a sad Thomas the Tank Engine movie, Christopher Nolan's going to direct it, it's going to go for 5 hours. You're like, that's fucking crazy. But then there is a little part of you that's like, I kind of might need to see that to see what they've done with the thing I know.
Yeah, I want to know what happens to Gordon. Yeah.
You know, I think you should just exit all movies through the gift shop like you have to do at museums, and you can buy toys of whatever you see. So yeah, if you see Oppenheimer, you can walk out with a little Cillian Murphy. If you go and see The Father, starring Anthony Hopkins, you've got your own little Anthony Hopkins to take home and be sad with you.
Just slowly declining.
At the risk of
these IP things are going to be all mashed up soon. Soon we'll see like Shallow Hal starring the Fat Controller. And
yeah, I was just about to say, the risk of being cancelled. You know, I thought he was called the Fat Controller back in the day, but he was. He's
Sir Toppin Hat now. I am deep in Thomas lore, everyone.
Sorry, I am just finding out about this. This is crazy.
We can't body shame the Fat Controller anymore. So we can't Sir Toppin Hat anymore, Lewis.
But we weren't. We were fat celebrating.
Not in the eyes of the woke army at Sodor.
He was in charge.
Honestly, he really was. I can't believe that Barbie, like in everything that's going on, like with body image, all that stuff, that they pulled off this Barbie movie. Like, it's pretty wild.
Well, this is the whole thing. So, you know, Greta Gerber is directing. She's kind of known for her.
Greta who? Sorry, Dan?
No, Greta.
Greta Garbo, the Hollywood actress from the 30s.
No,
we brought her back. We AI'd her from death. She directed a film.
As long as, I'm actually keen to see it. Is that weird?
See?
Or have they
That's
just
how they got
me?
you.
They got me, didn't they?
But that, it is. Sorry, Dan, do you want to go?
Oh, no, go for it, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's how it's the same thing when like they announced that they were doing a Facebook movie. Your first thought is there is like a marketing thing where when someone tells you the worst idea of all time, you kind of go, fuck, I need to see if they pull this off. And I guess
that
with
like
the Facebook movie,
Dan
really
inviting me on Irrational Fear.
Is this actually going to work? There have been lesser people on Irrational Fear, including myself. It's okay. I actually went to the world premiere of the Emoji Movie because I was friends with the guy who ran Emojipedia.
I thought you were about to say you were friends with the guy who played the talking shit.
My best friends are emojis.
And I kind of didn't expect to enjoy it at all, but I had a really good time, despite it being completely, terrible film. But it's one of those things where you're at the world premiere of a movie, and you're just going to have fun at the world premiere of a movie anyway. Like, well, I got a photo with Jennifer Coolidge, so that was pretty cool.
Was she? Which emoji was Jennifer Coolidge?
Oh, I don't know. She was in the film. I also got a photo with Mario Lopez because I think he looks like Mark Fennell, and I just wanted a photo with Mario Lopez and to show Mark Fennell that I was hanging out with Mark Fennell.
But Dan, did you go to the world premiere of Mission Impossible last week?
No, but every mother's son did.
Yeah.
Did you go, Lewis?
No, I was invited, but I have a child. And because of that, I haven't done anything on a weeknight in 6 months.
So you turned down your child for Tom Cruise? You turned down Tom Cruise for your child.
Tom Cruise for my child. Yeah, that's right.
That's a good
and
bar story.
I got to tell you, it was not a hard decision.
When has your baby dove out of a plane and broken her foot, Lewis? Show me
That's
that
true.
take.
She does her own stunts, but they're mostly shit related. And let me tell you, I don't think Mr. Cruz could pull them off.
Honestly, love her work.
They're the same
man.
height. She could be his stunt double.
Do you reckon when they do these world premieres, like the cast sit in and watch it every time? We're like, we're going to have some beers. We'll be back in 2 hours.
Usually they don't, but Tom Cruise would. He's like,
he needs
guy,
that validation. Yeah.
Well, he's the president of movies at the moment. Like, he seems to just be going on the campaign trail for movies in general, so he's got to watch them all.
have you ever seen? There is a video you can watch of him where he campaigns for the end of motion smoothing, which is like the most Tom Cruise thing in the world. Like, there'll be most people listening. This is an audio medium, being like, I don't know what motion smoothing is, and let me tell you, you not knowing what motion smoothing is. That pisses off Mr. Cruz.
It's a little setting in your TV that's meant to make sports look a lot better because
and he explains how to turn it off.
It's very good.
He would
It's really influential content though, Lewis. Like, my dad, bless him, for the life. Like, I told him motion smoothing bad, but it took Mr. Tom Davidson Cruz, well, I don't know his middle name, to make him turn it off.
Yeah, it's a wild time.
All right. This week's third fear. Now, many folks would be listening to the show, would be very concerned about the cost of living right now, but we have got a cost of living sensei with us on the podcast. Glen James from the My Millennial podcast is with us. Glen, cost of living right now is crazy. Interest rates are crazy. What is like the number one strategy for dealing with cost of living crisis?
I think when things get really tight and tough, you've got to get micro on your budget. Like, I was thinking a few years ago, like, no one actually knew or cared what their power bill was. Like, but now it's getting tighter. We start to pay attention with our bills. So I honestly think you've just got to control what you can control, and you'll still see that, the needs will really become apparent when you're doing like your wants versus needs. And whether you're buying groceries, you might, go, oh, I really love that bloody Kinder Surprise, Lewis, but can't do it. It's a want. It's not a need.
Hey, Glenn, say what you want. You can't take that little toy away from me. That's all I have left in this world. That's my house. That little egg.
That's your nest egg, and it is delicious. But yeah, I just think like anything, you just got to control what you can control. It's the main thing.
What are some of the easiest gains? What are like some of the easiest low hanging fruit that people can really sort their money out with?
Yeah, I reckon if you've got a mortgage, even though the interest rates have gone up, every 10 minutes, you need to call your bank or lender or mortgage broker and get a rate review. Because, I did that at the start of the year, I think, and they just reviewed the rate, and I saved hundreds of dollars a month just from one phone call, and that was real money. I think really line by line, looking at your budget and making some tough calls, because we know that your budget. This feels so weird to be talking seriously on this podcast.
No, but you need to realize that you're talking to. Well, I don't want to speak for Alice and Dan, but someone who owns nothing, expects to never own anything. It lives on a weird life that could end at any moment financially.
Lewis, bless you for thinking I own anything. That is the nicest thing anyone said.
You could be a nepo baby. I don't know. Maybe you were born rich.
I wish.
Unfortunately, you do seem to work quite hard, which suggests that I don't think you are a nepo baby. I'm so sorry.
Listen to my Bart Simpson voice. Like, this is the voice of a scrappy fighter in the cost of living crisis.
But there's only 4 things that you can really do with your budget, right? You can increase income. So, that might not be an option for people. 2, you can decrease savings. So if stuff's more expensive and you are saving money, well, you either increase income to keep paying for your stuff or decrease savings if you are saving money. The next one is to review line items. is so if you've got a line item of subscriptions, for example, I was looking at mine the other day and like I've got bloody Amazon, Netflix, friggin' Stan, Foxtel. Like, I'm just thinking this is ridiculous. And it all just creeps in one by one. So you can review a line item and cut some subscriptions.
What are you going to cut, Glenn? What are you going to cut? What's the first one to go?
Probably Stan.
Oh, ouch.
But how will you watch every season of RuPaul's Drag Race, Glenn?
This is, well, who's to say I haven't already?
Yeah. Again.
Zing. Yeah. So I don't know. It's really tough. And then the last one is to cut something out completely. So it could be cutting cutting your Rational Fear subscription out completely. But, but you're not doing that. You are not doing that.
Glenn, let me tell you, as someone who has access to the Patreon dashboard, I can tell you a lot of people have been doing that in this cost of living crisis.
Oh, look, guys, let's real talk. Dan, are you safe? Are you okay, Dan?
No, we didn't.
Like, fair enough. Good. Like, as in, obviously we hope people can pay when they can, but like, we should be on the top of your list when it comes to things to go. Like, pay for heating, pay for food.
Maybe
we'll be
kids.
fine in our tents and my little egg that I live in.
Yeah.
May I ask, Glenn, do you have any financial advice for someone who's chosen a career in comedy?
Well, I don't know.
Sounds like my mum and dad.
Yeah. Look, okay. This is okay. It's a really good one because you're in a career that is niched, right? And
yes,
it's kind of like an entertaining career, right? There is a pyramid, and only a few get to the very top and really, really, really do well. So the thing is, how do you get to that top part of
Start a podcast. Yep.
Yeah, that's it.
Start a podcast, basically. But I mean, you look at the way the world goes with music now, right? So unless you're really Taylor Swift, you're not making heaps of money. Where 20 years ago, like The Living End, Eskimo Joe, they were like the last wave of like decent music that were, I don't know if it's decent, some people might not think so, but big quote unquote music that were printing lots of money. But because
they are still living on that black fingernails red wine.
That's right. They really are. And so if you fast forward now, the way that, technology is in the arts, like, because it's such a commodity, what do you do to stand out and not just be a commodity, whether it is, podcast or I don't know. But you've just got to keep hustling. I would say draw a line in the sand and say, all these comments are distracting me. Draw a line in the sand for anyone in the arts and say, I'm going to go hard at this for the next 1 year, 2 years, whatever that is. And I did it with my podcast. Like I started the podcast, which is now, entertainment, arts type weird. It's, living, but I'm going hard for 12 months. I'm going to throw everything at it, do all that I can. If it doesn't work after that, I have to make a call because I could be wasting heaps of time. And I don't want to be that 55-year-old actor in Hollywood serving tables waiting to make it. Where, look, you still might, but I think it's more about, okay, what can I do with my career to really make the best use of my time and effort, and then do it more on the side, maybe. And then if it happened on the side, you haven't had all that opportunity cost of your career.
See, what struck me there, Glenn, you mentioned the pyramid and getting to the top of the pyramid, and I've done my share of improv comedy, and that's a different type of pyramid. That's a scheme.
Yeah, yes. So look, it's really hard.
Ground floor.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think you just got to, go at it as hard as you can, as fast as you can. And the problem was, I would probably give yourself another couple of years because anything in the arts and entertainment, COVID really kind of pressed pause on that. So you got to get out there and everyone listening, support artists like Dan and Lewis, the podcast here. And,
I'm not an artist.
Sorry.
No, Glenn, I'm busting your chops.
Yeah. I'm like, is this your podcast as well, is it? But support Alice with everything that she does.
Oh,
There
bless
you
you.
go, Glenn. That's what
That's
you got.
very sweet advice, Glenn. I expected you just to tell us that we were all silly for choosing a career telling jokes, but that was very nice.
No, well, like
This
you've
is,
got to
this
do
is
it
one of the
because
thing about Glenn's podcast. Can I give you a pump up here, Glenn? Glenn's
Sure.
podcast was one of the first podcasts I listened to when I returned from America broke, and I was, at 36 or something, completely had nothing in my bank account. I had very low super, and I started listening to Glenn's podcast, and it really put me on the straight and narrow. And it's always filled with great advice about how you can slowly rebuild your financial life and live a better life. So yeah, that's a big pump up for you, Glenn, but it's true.
Yeah, well, Alice, after this, I'll also, and to you, Lewis, as well. I'll get your address and I'll send you a copy of my 2 books, and you can. They're really great monitor stands.
Yeah, well, my girlfriend Alex is a huge fan of the podcast. I know she's listened to it a lot, and she often tries to impart some of the advice on me, and it hasn't stuck. But that's not your fault, and it's not hers. There's only one person whose fault that is, and you're
Tom
looking at
Cruise. Oh,
If you're not a Patreon member, you'll be hearing a whole bunch of ads right now. If you are a Patreon member, you're going to be hearing some extra fear. We're going to be talking more about Barbie and why it's about to be banned in Vietnam. So back on Barbie, in other Barbie news, according to Vietnam state media, the United States Action Live feature film Barbie is banned from screening in Vietnam for featuring a map depicting the illicit. This is from their press release, the illicit 9-dash line that China uses to illegally claim its sovereignty over most of the East Vietnam Sea. Now, first of all, if you're listening, we might know it as the South China Sea, but in Vietnam, they call it the East Vietnam Sea. It's important to say that. So yeah, completely banned. Is this a surprise to you, Fearmongers? Alice, is this a surprise to you?
Well, may I just start off by saying 9-dash line? Wasn't that what was found in the White House? Clang.
Interesting. This is very interesting.
But no, it was it's not the first time it's happened as well. Not the first time the Vietnam Department of Cinemas banned a movie. They banned the Mark Wahlberg Uncharted film as well, which was more of a blessing than a curse. They also banned the Australian series Pine Gap, and I guess the Australian censors got there as well, because I've also not heard of the Australian series Pine Gap. But that just might be because of an underfunded screen sector. Who knows?
It's bizarre that a whole movie gets banned because there's a map on the screen, like someone with 9 dashes on it. Someone said, "Oh, we can't have that because that'll be too offensive for everybody in Vietnam."
Well, Dan, it's not the first time that Barbie's been called out for having a perceived bias towards China. I don't know if you remember earlier this year when they announced Uyghur internment officer Barbie. She really can do anything.
She can make wallets, make shoes. Oh, she can paint.
Maybe they banned it because she's made in China.
She's made by Uyghurs. That's why they banned it. Yeah. Lewis,
Tough gig.
Well, I mean, it is surprising. I must admit, when I saw the headline, it was like Barbie creates international division. I was like, that seems wrong. And then I looked at it, and it feels, I don't know what's going, because there must be a few things that if you are making movies like in Hollywood for huge international distribution, there would have to be a few things that everyone just knows. You know what I mean? That they're like, hey, here's like a list of things that we're not saying you can't necessarily do it, but if you do this, this will be the territory you can't sell to. And it happens quite a bit.
Yeah, it would be
I reckon
totally,
within
pragmatic
2 months. Within 2 months, they'll do a recut of that scene or whatever and just edit that map out, and it'll be in Vietnam tomorrow.
But not until they've sold China for like months and months and months, because clearly they've picked a side, and the side is the one with billions of people. So
that's true.
I feel like I don't want to tell you about how to make money, Glenn, but
no, please.
Go with China over Vietnam. That'd be my hot tip as a film distribution, as a guy. But yeah, it feels like it's actually a really smart tactic. Like next time you just release a thing that like gets rid of Palestine, and then a month later be like, oh, we've re-released it now with the correct border. It's like, it does feel like they're trying to. I just don't think it doesn't make sense to me that this is an accident that happened. Like it's great. It doesn't make sense to me that this is.
It's
just
not an
being
accident,
thought of
Lewis.
now.
It's a chance for Barbie to sell more accessories.
She's going to have a lion necklace and everything. I want to know the last precedent of a Hollywood movie causing an international incident or a coup in a country when the citizens saw a lion on a movie and they
Well,
wanted
usually
to...
it is China. China's been big on banning stuff. They're mad for it. So remember Red was it Red Panda? Was a Pixar film that they lost
Big
their
Red?
minds over.
Seeing red?
Hmm.
Being
Big
red?
Are
Going
you
red.
getting your genre right here?
I'm pretty sure I am.
Was Greta Garbo in it?
He was, yeah. Turning Red. It's Turning Red is what it was called.
Must have been a hit.
Yeah. Anyway, all I'm saying is they're pretty big on banning stuff, and I just am like this. I don't know. I'm not saying it's a Barbie conspiracy, but I'm also not saying that.
Sorry, Lewis, a conspiracy.
Uh,
I'll see myself out. Thank
No.
you.
Yeah.
You
Back
can
to the
say-
left. Yeah.
that is it for Irrational Fear. Big thank you to all of our guests this week. Glen James from My Millennial Money, Alice Tovey, and of course, Lewis Hobber. Let's get our plugs underway. Lewis, you can go last. Alice, let's hear from you first. What would you like to plug?
Dan, I've got nothing going on. It's a beautiful time of year where Australians are in Edinburgh and I'm at home. But yeah, go to my website. You can see if I've got any gigs upcoming there. And yeah, Google my name to read my little thoughts.
Glen James.
Well, if you want to listen to more money crap, you can listen to My Millennial Money or Dan's podcast. But no, I just want to encourage everyone who listens to this, if you got some money, flick it over to Dan, because he one needs it, but two, you know, I tell a lot of my sponsors I can be bought, wink, but Dan's legit. He will be crowdfunded and, you know, powered by the people, where I don't do it that way. So I would encourage everyone to support the podcast financially.
We're sponsored by Australian Ethical. It's a big superannuation company. They don't mind.
Yeah.
Lewis, what would you like to plug?
Dan, I'm so glad you asked. Look,
Here we
if
go.
you love podcasts, guess
We do.
what?
You've got a
I
new
have
podcast?
a new one.
Oh,
I have a new podcast.
yay!
I have a new podcast. Thank you so much. It is called Silver Bullet. It is a podcast that I'm starting with my friend Michael Hing, who people might know as my radio co-host on Hobber and Hing. And I'm really excited about it. But you can go and follow it on all the things now. The first little episode 0 with the introduction is out at the moment. But yeah, you can. The first 3 episodes will be out on Wednesday, and let me tell you the story of this podcast.
Please do.
So,
yeah.
It's called Silver Bullet, and it's about Hing and I, 2 people who are broken in the brain, looking for the quickest fix we can that will solve everything. So each week we have a really incredible person come on who tells us the thing that they genuinely believed at some point would fix their life. Then Hing and I try it, and then we all review it. So we've got people like Australian of the Year Grace Tame. We have people like comedian Tom Cardy. We have people like Veronica Milsom. We have Abby Chatfield. We have all sorts of incredible people across this podcast all coming on and pitching their weird and wacky solutions that will fix literally everything as quickly as possible.
You'll have Glen James on there one day as well.
I will. I'll have Glen James on. What's your silver bullet, Glenn? What's the thing that you do that you think
you'll have to wait? But I
want
to know. I know the silver bullet is exercise and eat less. I know that apparently works, but I don't do it. Can I use something that I don't do?
No, it needs to be something that you have tried and that it doesn't necessarily need to have worked, but you needed to have believed that it would work.
Yeah, I automated all my spending and cash flow and money system, and I started to save money and have money for bills and never stress out financially ever again.
What?
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
that was my silver bullet.
How did you
That
do
is
that?
such a smart answer to that question. I just learned in recent years to put mayonnaise on the outside of toasties to make them go browner.
All right. Well, I mean, yeah, you should come on the podcast. It won't be
Yeah.
funny, it doesn't sound like, but that'll sound like it'll be really useful.
No, it'll be a very silver bullet.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
For context, the ones we've done so far are things like flotation tanks, going to see a psychic, eating Dwayne The Rock Johnson's diet, things of that nature.
Oh, okay. Radical, wild stuff, not boring fiction money stuff.
No, but believe me, that sounds really good.
Oh, yeah.
All
Sounds
right.
like it'll actually help.
Yeah.
It's really fun. It's going to be on all the podcast places. It's also going to be on YouTube. We've been filming them. It's going to be great.
Yeah,
When
well,
you-
also
when you
you
launch-
can. I was
Say
going to
that
say,
again,
come on
Dan?
my.
Oh, sorry. When are you launching?
We're launching on Wednesday. What's this Wednesday? This Wednesday, the 12th of
Right.
July.
Oh, how brilliant.
Yeah, we're really pumped about it.
Well, you're welcome on my show anytime to promote it. So
Thanks, Glenn. I'd love to. If you need someone on who has never been able to save money and spends recklessly, then I'm your guy.
no, I've had Dan on. What are you plugging, Dan?
Oh, well, I've just got. We can plug our 2 live shows we've got coming up. We've got the Women in Media Conference coming up in September 9, and also we're going to the Torres Strait, baby. We're going to be doing a show on the 18th of September on Thursday Island in the Bowls Club there, and I just booked a headliner who is really excited to join us, Lewis. Dane Simpson, our good friend,
Oh,
is going to be coming up
How good's Dane?
to do a
Love
show
that.
with us. We're going to be talking about The Voice and hanging out with other Torres Strait Islander comedians up there.
Awesome.
That is going to be really, really fun. And yeah, please, we need to pay for it. So please become a Patreon supporter. Also, big thank you to Road Mics, who we got our first batch of gear from, Australian Ethical, all of our Patreons.
not our second.
Also, Jacob Round on the Teppanyaki timeline. Thank you so much. I'm recording my end of Irrational Fear on Gadigal land in the Eora Nation. Sovereignty was never ceded. We need a treaty. Until next week, there's always something to be scared of. Goodbye. Thanks, folks. That was great.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Please shoot me your audio.
Do you need me to stay on and record?
Oh,
Dan,
yeah.
or-
If you can stay on this, we'll just do a quick Australian Ethical read.
Great.
All right, I'll see you guys soon. Email me your